Hey guys, how's it going? It's the Evil Ed 123 here with a review. Now, this is a movie I debated on doing a video on, and I tried to make this video like 5 or 6 different times, but I kept fumbling on what I was going to say. But I decide that, for people who are fans of Rob Zombie's work and who are interested in a sequel to Devil's Rejects, I feel like I can share my thoughts on this, and the movie I want to talk about is Three from Hell. Now, Three from Hell picks up right where Devil's Rejects ended, which, for those of you who don't know, and this is the thing that I always question is like how Rob is going to do this, is the Devil's Rejects ends with them getting shot up by the police. Like, they get killed off, in this epic Bonnie and Clyde-esque shootout. So, how is he going to work in, how is this going to work? So it comes up with this thing where it's like, oh, they survived being shot 20 times, 20 different areas, and are rushed to surgery, and they miraculously survived. I really find that unlikely. It's one of those things I'm like, yeah, sure. But the movie... for the first, I would say, 10 minutes of the movie, it's this really interesting thing that they do. They do this documentary style where it's about the trial of the three, and it's interviews from what the public thinks. It's very much like the Charlie Manson-esque documentary and like the Ted Bundy trials, for anyone who's seen that, and it's really unique. It's actually one of those things where I say that I think the movie would have been really great, just on its own of the trial between the three. I think that would have been, grounds for a great movie on its own. And you find out where the characters are, like babies in solitary confinement, and she's gone full on crazy mode, like full on, just out there Harley Quinn-esque crazy. And Otis, Otis is just about the same as ever, I would say. And one of the things I should mention, for those of you who don't know, Sid Haig passed away recently, and this movie, I believe this is the last movie he shot. I think there's other movies that are coming up where before he shot that he shot before he passed away. But for those of you who are wondering, Sid Haig is only in the movie for one scene, and there's a reason behind this. As many people, for probably those who aren't aware, Sid Haig's health was declining, and within 3 weeks of shooting the movie, Rob noticed this, and he decided to rewrite the script where it was Catchall is going to have a smaller part, but still going to be in a good majority of the movie. But by then his health was really getting bad, so Rob did write one scene, and we're able to shoot one day with Sid, and Sid Haig gives this great monologue. Like, the scene that Sid is in is amazing, and this thing that I always respected about Sid Haig, that I respect any actor who gives the best performance, no matter what movie they're in, or whatever it is, whatever character they're playing or part they're playing. I respect an actor when they give 100%, when they give their all, and that's what I really loved about Sid in this movie. And I always loved the character of Captain Spaulding. Like, to me, he is the heart of the Devil's Rejects universe, at least for me, or Rob Zombie's Firefly family universe. I always felt he was the heart of it. And so the plot goes where we're introduced to Richard Brake's character, who I believe is the Midnight Wolfman. I can't remember what he calls himself in the movie, but he breaks Bill Moseley out of prison. He breaks Otis out of prison, and their plan is to get Baby out of jail. So it's this whole thing where they get out of prison and go to Mexico to lay low, but as events happen, they end up getting ambushed by the Black Satans, because in the movie, Bill Moseley's character kills Danny Trejo's character, who's the exact same character that he was in Devil's Rejects, as revenge. So Danny Trejo's son in the movie, Aquarius, gets his revenge because, like, oh, you killed my dad kind of deal. And really, that's the basic plot of the movie. There's a lot of other crazy stuff that happens in between. There's a lot of interesting cameos in there. Like Chaz Bono is in the movie for a brief scene, which I thought, okay, that's kind of interesting. Maybe not as bizarre as Weird Al Yankovic's cameo in Halloween 2. But what drives the movie for me is the relationship and the chemistry that Bill Moseley and Sherry Moon have in the movie. And this is the thing that I always loved about Devil's Rejects is that even though the characters are awful, like they're terrible people, but yet there's something funny. Like they have so many funny lines and the way they play off each other. Like there's the scene in this movie where I don't know, it's almost like little kids, like where it's like pow pow pow. It's like oh whatever. Or it's like play fight or whatever. It's one of those things. I'm like, I like the. It's one of those things. Again, this is the thing that I really love about how Rob writes these characters, and one of the things I also enjoy in this movie in particular. There's surprisingly some tender scenes in the movie, like some tender moments. Like one of the moments I really like is when we're introduced to this character who this character that's this little person actor who gives baby breakfast and baby just sits down and they have this conversation and she says to him that she reminds him of her brother Tiny, not in height but more of the same vibe that they gave off each other, the vibe. And he says on lines of, no, I'm a terrible person, I've done bad things. And she goes, well, Tiny was terrible too, he did bad things too, but I always found him beautiful. It's this really weird thing where it's like, oh wow, they actually are showing emotions outside of being crazy and murderous, that it's like, oh, they actually can have these tender moments. And there's this great conversation piece with Baby and Otis about Sid Haig's character, about Captain Spaulding. Like I said, there's those moments I really enjoy, and again, there's a lot of funny lines in there. And that's the thing that I also really appreciate about this movie, is that one of the big complaints Rob Zombie gets with most of his movies is that the dialogue can become so annoying and grating, and it's just gross for the sake of being gross, to where it just becomes grating after a while. But what I like in this movie, it kind of scales back a little bit, and it actually becomes more funny. The dialogue becomes more humorous than it does, offensive for the sake of being offensive. That's what I really like about this movie. I would actually rank this as one of the better Rob Zombie movies that I've seen recently. My list goes, I still think number one of his best movies is Devil's Rejects. I would rank number 2 as his Halloween reboot. Even though there's parts of that movie that I'm kind of iffy about, I still say that's a pretty solid one. Third would be 31. Because I really love Doomhead. Doomhead is my favorite character. Richard Brake's character saves that movie for me. And I would say last place would be 3 from Hell. I wouldn't say it's one of those movies I would rewatch, but seldom would I rewatch most of Rob Zombie's movies. Sometimes his movies are one of those deals where it's like, once in a while, not every day kind of deal. There's a lot of movies that fall under that category where I'll watch once in a while. But yeah, I would say 3 from Hell is one of those movies where if you enjoy Rob Zombie's work, you'll probably like this movie, maybe not as much as his earlier movies, because one of the things that's surprising about this one, he restrains himself a lot on certain aspects. Like one of his tropes that you think is going to happen doesn't happen in this, which I really appreciate, because one of the things I don't like that Rob Zombie does in most of his movies, I'll probably do a whole separate video on this, but he'll have assault of some kind, and it makes this uncomfortable feeling, and I get that he wants the audience to be uncomfortable and unsettling, but at the same time, it's one of those deals where I'm like, it feels out of place. It feels like you don't need that to drive, like, oh, these characters are bad. You don't need that in there. Yeah, at least for me, I feel like those are that's unnecessary. But like I say, he shows restraint in this movie, which I thought was pretty interesting. And even some of the violent scenes, again, they feel pretty, almost like a step back. Not that I'm against that. It's just it's kind of interesting though how in a way, with this movie, he's shown maturity, or he's grown as a filmmaker. I feel like he's grown in maturity, I think. But like I said, would I recommend this movie? I would say if you're a fan of Rob Zombie's work, then yeah, you'll probably enjoy this. And if you're interested to see the Firefly family, then yeah, I definitely. I still say one of the things that kind of hurts, at least for me, is that this was Sid Haig's last performance. And so the one scene that he's in, though, to me shines. It's the best scene in the whole movie, I think. He delivers a great monologue. And I've met Sid Haig a few times at a few different conventions and a few different events. And he was such a nice guy, like sweetheart of a dude. Really, really, really great guy. And no, I was saddened by the news when I heard he passed away. That was, that hurt. But yeah, that's my review for Three from Hell. If you're interested in seeing this movie, I would say check it out. But till then, I will see you guys later.